everyone. Welcome to episode 188 of Floating Through Film. This week we are starting my series that I'm picking. As you see in the title, we're doing the Early Avant-Garde, I guess I'm calling it.
What's the whole series called?
Because I'm calling it the whole series experimental film.
Nothing like not gonna try like a really cool name or anything?
See, this actually goes into the first topic I have, is there's so many different words for the word experimental. It's not a category really. Like it was like the first question I was going to ask you guys. But let me introduce you guys first. Luke here.
Hi.
And Blake.
Here.
What's up?
Luke here.
Yeah, say here when I say your name.
I call an attendance.
And then one of you don't answer. It's like, wait.
He's not going to join us.
Anyway. He has nothing to say. It's a silent podcast. It's experimental.
Yeah.
We just don't say anything the rest of the episode.
I like that.
Okay, no, but that was actually the first question I was gonna, because you kind of just said it jokingly, but it's actually like honestly very important. Honestly, you could say one of the questions of experimental cinema is, what does this word experimental even mean? Like, let me just start there. What does it mean to you when I say we're doing this series on experimental film?
Not conforming to how people usually make films, which to me is like narrative filmmaking. It's trying to operate outside of it.
Is that okay? Yes, because I think that is definitely a huge part.
Yeah.
But then
also structure too is probably, well, I guess narrative and structure. But yeah, that's my definition.
I like to connect these first movies at least to kind of watching Vertov, where it's just like almost watching it and going like they're just trying shit and seeing what sticks almost.
Yes.
That's almost kind of what experimental means to me, though. Is they're just trying whatever the hell they want, you know.
Trying like with
like just trying to make an interesting experience.
Okay.
How in unique ways, like obviously, like already kind of like what Luke said, like they're obviously not a normal movie. They're not, because even back in the 1920s, there was an established formula on how to make movies. Like silent films were built on that. So seeing movies like this obviously breaks that mold. But
like what are they trying specifically? Because you say experience, and you could say even a narrative filmmaker is trying to do that too, right? They're trying to give you an interesting experience. So I think you kind of almost said it at the second part is with like the whole, even by the 1920s, there was already kind of a way of making films, a formula kind of.
Yeah.
And
because would you say like the Lumiere brothers were experimental cinema?
I think everything,
because in a way like they weren't necessarily narrative, but also like there wasn't exactly like a norm of narrative yet. So, like, could you even call that experimental?
At least in the way we're going to talk about it today. Honestly, I would say Méliès probably classifies that a little bit more than Lumiere. But honestly, both of them, because this is one thing that, like, my first little... let me mention the sources I'm going to use today, because normally I'm bad about this, so today I'm going to make sure I have, like, my three main sources. One of them is called A History of Experimental Film and Video by A.L. Rees. One of them is called Light Moving in Time, Studies in Visual Aesthetics of the Avant-Garde Film by William C. Wees. And then a third one is called Harmony and Descent, Film Avant-Garde Art Movements in the Early 20th Century. And so I'll be going through, like, just basically they're kind of, like... And, like, that's already tough. It's already tough, like, because there's not one agreed definition of what experimental is, like, who are the key people and stuff like that, but... so this is kind of like my synthesis in a way. But the first thing is, because this is something A.L. Rees points out, is at least for the definition he has for his book. Because from what both of you guys have said, someone like Godard, Wim Wenders, Marker, I'm mentioning those people, and even Straub Hula would all classify, right?
Guess what? Like
experimental.
Yeah.
According to your definitions.
I guess, yeah.
So then why do you think he would say that they're not what he's focusing on in this book?
Well, I guess they still had like, for example, Straub and Hugh
Yeah.
How do you pronounce the second?
Hile. I don't know. That's a good.
That's
a
good
good question.
I always feel like I don't know, and I never like.
I haven't seen the movies yet, so I
have, so
I'm
that's
off the
like
hook.
I probably should know at this point.
Yeah.
But even then, they still operate within a narrative of some kind, like in Strawberry. I mean, I guess except for maybe
in Godard.
Godard.
Especially not later Godard. Honestly, later Godard is definitely more of this.
Well, actually, I would just consider later Godard experimental.
Yeah,
definitely.
I don't know why he would. I mean, I guess maybe because Godard, maybe because Straub and Godard, they both at some point made narrative films, and they kind of ventured into the experimental lens, you could say. While compared to people who just made experimental the entire time, that's the only thing they were focused on. I don't know though. That's just my
honestly. Even as I'm pointing this out, like Ken Russell and David Lynch definitely follow more into what I'm about to say in terms of like what he determines the difference between art house versus experimental.
Yeah.
And mainly the two differences is nothing like because all these non-narrative things are features of a lot of these filmmakers. But what he talks about are mainly scales of production and funding, and that's like a huge like how like this like a lot of these films we're doing today were made just by one or two people, you know.
Yeah.
Versus like even Godard's movies, like especially the earlier ones, they still had like took bigger budgets. Like those are tiny budgets compared to like a Hollywood movie, but those would even be big budgets compared to like some of these really early movies, like how much they took to make. You know.
I guess
like truly independent movies, almost
honestly,
in a way.
Didn't like Godard's later films like they definitely had a lot less funding. And probably had a lot.
That's why I was saying later Godard, and even Chris Marker's stuff too, because he was literally making movies by himself.
Like Histoire du Cinema, he probably made that like.
That's why I was saying David Lynch.
Involved, really?
He definitely had some editors and stuff, but
even then it's probably like
but like honestly, like Chris Marker to me is more experimental because he was literally making movies like in his like house by himself.
Cat listening to music. Is that one of our?
I mean, that's like a bad like okay, that's a good example. We're not. I don't think we're gonna do Private Life of a Cat.
It's one of the greatest movies.
No. He's talking about Cat listening to music, not Private Life of a Cat.
Well, he was. Why would we? Oh, for experimental.
Yeah,
we're not doing Chris Marker though.
It's one of the greatest movies ever made.
It is. One of the greatest.
It's not even his best movie though. I did rewatch Sans Soleil though.
But we've already done that. We could do it again.
I wouldn't mind. Yeah, either way. So like that's the kind of first difference he makes. So that's something that'll come up with my Deren next week. Basically almost with all these films we're doing. Even compared to like a Godard movie, especially a David Lynch movie, Ken Russell, even though I haven't seen like, and those would be considered independent, small scale movies compared to Hollywood. Yeah. Compared to Maya Deren, those are even big budgets and like huge productions, you know. This is also another key feature, especially for these early films that I'm going to be talking about throughout, like why I picked these too, and like I'll get to that in a second. But A.L. Reese points out that this term experimental or avant-garde, whatever you want to say, it really comes from postmodern art rather than cinema itself. You know, it was a lot of these, like especially in these 20s, it was called absolute film, and I'm going to go over that in a few minutes. But it was like they were getting a lot of these terms from like Cubism. I don't know if you guys have seen like this kind of early modern art, like basically, you know, the early abstract paintings you see, like Cubism or Kandinsky, Piet Mondrian, some of these like early abstract, like they were getting more, like filmmakers were getting ideas from those kind of theories and being like, how can we apply those to cinema? You know, rather than being like, how can we like necessarily experiment on cinema's formula? Because like a lot of them didn't like narrative, you know, obviously that's why they're making these kind of films, you know. So I wanted to give like in A.L. Ree's books and William C. Wee's book at the beginning of them, they both have these like lists of different words you could use for experimental because it's so loose. So I wanted to list at least some of these words that kind of all fit, or like as A.L. Rees says, none of them are generally accepted. Because he says experimental, absolute, pure, non-narrative, underground, expanded, abstract. And then William C. Wee says his examples are experimental, underground, visionary, personal, poetic, pure, free, independent, alternative. And he says all these have been applied to the avant-garde. So like that's why you can see I'm like struggling to know like what word to call it. That's why I think experimental is. I feel like it's the most like I don't know understood term of these.
Avant-garde
but
is like more fun to say.
It is,
Like
but it sounds more like annoying, like pretentious. Too,
Oh, big time.
Avant-garde.
Even though one of the so like I guess I can just say it now. Like A.L. Rees in his like because in his book he splits the book between early experimental cinema, and then his late experimental cinema is just on the British period, and so I haven't got to that part of it yet. So I only did the first part. For reason, no, I'm kidding. No, I do want to read the second. No, I do want to read the second part. I just haven't got time because, like, I think that's when he talks about Michael Snow.
Dan's
no,
like,
not Michael Snow.
Dan's like, I can't wait for the hate watch. You know?
I forget what British directors he talks about, but no, I mean if it's experimental, as long as it's not Powell and Pressburger, I'm fine.
They're like the one good British.
No, I'm kidding. I don't hate British cinema. I don't know where you got that.
You literally, like, when you watch his Swatch cinema, you're like, yeah, Godard, when he said, oh, British cinema is worthless, he's so right.
Did he say that?
Yeah, literally, like, he's like,
Wait, so I'm just quoting Godard, and then I don't think I said he was right. I was just, like, saying that's an interesting, really point.
That's not what you said. Come on now.
No.
What's the Godard quote? Godard, British cinema.
That'd be crazy if that comes up. Okay.
Oh yeah. The Russian made. Wait.
I was like, damn, that'd be crazy if that came out.
What came up? Oh, yeah, the Russians made martyr films. The Americans made commercials. The English made what they always make: nothing. Germans had no cinema, but with Roman City, Italy gained the right for a nation to look itself in the eye. So he said the British made what they always make, nothing.
Damn.
Guess he must have missed the Powell and Pressburger movie, Life and Death of Colonel Blimp, and The Red Shoes, and A Matter of Life.
Do you think Godard has a review on these movies?
He looked that
actually,
up.
yeah,
Because he might.
But he like loves them, actually.
You could continue a Godard series, honestly. Why don't you do that? Then we could do history.
Don't pressure me. Okay, Mister. Oh, you're gonna pick another white director.
But Godard would be fire. You always said you'd come back to him.
I never made promises.
So you're just saying early Godard is the only thing worthwhile?
No, it's just
exactly what he's
That's basically what you're saying.
No.
To get back to the topic, though, it kind of merges perfectly. Of course, Luke likes the more Hollywood narrative version of Godard and ignores the more experimental side.
I love all types of
because because let me read basically this kind of tension between let me read A.L. Rees' quote because it first quote. Hollywood was itself eager for cinema to be taken seriously and recognized as an art form, but rejected the methods of modern art in favor of a 19th century realist aesthetic based on the well-rounded story and on closed rather than open forms of narration. Its production systems and technical inventiveness were geared to these ends. So basically, there's a few things there, but that idea of open versus closed narrations too, I think that's a really good feature of all these films. You know, like they don't have any definitive like open, beginning, middle, end kind of structure, and if they do, like, you really have to be reading it to yourself, like.
Well, if they do, it's just a song or something. Yeah,
it's the theme of the song or something. But he also makes this point that I think is really kind of interesting, and also is a key feature of all these movies, is so he says, like, basically cinema, and I think I talked about this before on the montage episode, where cinema is at the same time like extremely material, but it's also extremely illusionistic at the same time, because it's like you're filming real things, but like the illusion of like a film is in your head almost, based on the kind of almost just like fake movement of 24 frames per second or whatever it is. But he points out that experimental films, and especially the ones this week, they're almost trying to draw attention to that point. That they're trying to draw you to the idea of that you're watching a film itself, like the materiality of the film, outside of just being like, this is what, and that's why I read that quote about 19th century realist aesthetic of that most Hollywood tried to achieve was, he puts it as, most Hollywood films try to achieve a unified visual field, central human themes, emotional identification or empathy, and then try to maintain the illusionistic surface. And basically, you could say all these films basically do the exact opposite of that, and like that's not a coincidence. They were trying to basically go away from this kind of realism that Hollywood at the time was actually trying to achieve through cinema, or mainstream.
I remember
cinema.
that we talked about this on probably the Chaplin episode, and probably the Buster Keaton episode too. Just whenever we were talking about some of the shorts, just how literally Charlie Chaplin has said to keep the feeling of realism, if you had a cut, it would be like the person walking from one room directly into the other.
Yes,
just to keep that feel. So.
Yes, continuity basically.
Yeah,
that's what I mentioned on the montage.
Yeah.
And actually, that's kind of what. Yes, I'm glad. That's actually the perfect kind of thing. I was like, I'm about to get into is because A.L. Rees then puts it. Okay, so we talked about with Keaton too, because we've talked about this idea a few times. Because usually with editing, you're trying to make you forget that you're watching a film. You're trying to make it seem real. Like a critic for Hans Richter put it, and I had this in my notes later, but I'll bring it up later now. A critic for Hans Richter's Rhythmus 21 put it as almost most films, they want you to see the screen as a window, right? Like you're looking through the screen and you're seeing something real that's happening behind it, like a window. But he says Hans Richter's film is like the movie screen becomes a canvas, like it's literally like it becomes a painting, where you're actually watching the screen to see what, like a painting, almost a canvas come alive in a way. And that's much different than normal cinema. And that's I think that's a good way of putting this idea of the materiality of cinema, and like experimental cinema is trying to bring that out, instead of saying this is real life, this is ignore the editing, ignore that there are people behind the camera editing this, it's actually drawing this out. And so in a way, it's like a lot of these movies, if you watch them for the first time, I'm going to ask you about your opinions on them as we go, as I talk about some of them, but like they can see like really messy almost, especially if you're just used to continuity editing all the time. Like you're not supposed to notice a cut really. Yeah. And these some of these are just like, or if you can't even understand like why the editing is going a certain way, like there's no story to hang on to, that can be really like kind of just unpleasing, even as someone who likes experimental movies, I can still be like what am I holding on to, and what A.L. Rees says, so if the authority of the image, as he puts it, is if realism, if experimental cinema is trying to put that away, what is it trying to replace realism with? And he says is with time. And that's basically honestly a good feature of all these experimental movies, is like they emphasize time as this kind of basically feature of a film much more than just realism, I'm going to go get into later, but this aspect of rhythm, or basically rhythm as an aspect of time, to me, once like that clicks in your head, like these movies make a lot more sense. Like that's what they're focused on, they're not focused on telling a story with like a central character or anything like that.
Or be like the blue represents.
Yes, nothing like that.
Yeah. And would you pick any? Are you gonna do any Chantal Akerman movies
in the future?
For
this? See, I don't know if she would be experimental enough.
But like you said, like focusing on time.
But she qualifies for that part for sure.
And like rhythm and stuff like that.
Yeah, honestly.
Yeah,
plus, she deserves her own series.
That's fair. Oh, you're saying none of these directors deserve their own series?
Well, they do. But it'd be hard to do a whole series, especially for like a lot of these are short films. That's the difference too.
Do
like how could we do a My Deren whole
series in one series?
Like, how about we do a whole My Deren series?
Shortest series of all time.
I mean, we kind of Tati to be 3. You know,
every My Deren episode would be 20 minutes.
Yeah, so I guess William C. Weiss, he puts it kind of the same kind of way as a different way. He says experimental cinema is kind of like basically trying to remind us of ways of seeing. Not trying to almost like basically trying to draw attention to seeing itself, you know, as he says, the art of seeing. So it's not just the idea of like ignore ourselves as a viewer and then just like watch almost detached thing going on, like a realistic story, but it's almost like the viewer has to draw attention, like has to be alive as they're watching, you know, to kind of make the movie come alive almost, because that's like how rhythm works, you know. But before I read off some of these techniques, I think Blake kind of hit on this earlier a little bit, but I think one of the differences to make an experimental film just on the technique level is using all these techniques, you know, like I said, just like they're just trying shit. And I was gonna ask you, but I'm gonna ask you now instead. So what is that? What are they trying specifically? Like, I'm gonna lead off. Basically, I'm asking like, what techniques do you notice when you, or like, what are the first that come to your head when you think about some of these movies that they're doing?
Okay, so the first one actually is the last movie that you made us watch, and I'm kind of glad that you made us watch it because that one's really good, or the one that you updated, I guess.
Okay.
Because I love the shit, which we see this, I feel like, a lot now. Or maybe not even a lot, but it's just the going through a tunnel, just like this dark tunnel. Like, you're going from, like, being on a railway to this dark tunnel, and then you just emerge into water. It's like you just pass through a portal into a different world. And I'm just like I don't know. But obviously, like, there are some, like, the other ones are kind of just, like, painting on frames. So you're literally watching how movies are kind of made, except it's just painting on a frame. I don't know.
Yes.
Those are the what I think of the most.
Okay.
And then obviously the woman at the end of Return to Reason. Amazing.
Oh, okay. No,
I'm gonna need your help on understanding what that one's about exactly, because I was surprised by the ending, but I was like, this is interesting.
I don't know if I got anything for you there. But I don't know. What about you, Luke? Is there any film techniques? Is there anything that stands out to you from these films?
Lots of great shapes.
Okay.
Colors.
Yes.
The spirals themselves, like a lot of spirals.
A lot of good montage.
Okay.
Because I think, honestly, one of my favorites is Ballet Mécanique. Ballet Mécanique. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah.
What's the English title?
I don't know. That's the only title I've seen. Ballet Mechanic?
Probably something like that. Because I just like all like little like editing montage things, and like it feels almost like Vertov, like Man with a Movie.
Bro, on my notes, I literally had feels like Vertov.
Well, I mean, literally, it feels like.
Actually, I put that.
It feels like Man with a Movie.
Actually, I because in the books I've read, at least in the one of the books, I didn't get all the way to where he might have talked about it, but I didn't read too much about that movie specifically.
Yeah.
But then I was reading on Wikipedia about it, and apparently there's two directors. One of the directors, Fernand Legard. He's actually,
and then Dudley Murphy.
Fernand Legard. He's a Cubist painter, and I've known a little bit about him, but he apparently was trying to combine.
Dudley Murphy was a Hollywood director.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he made some like narrative movies in Hollywood.
Well, I think Fernand Legard, I forgot what else. He only did like one other thing, but in film anyway. But he said he was trying to combine basically Dadaism, which is what Return to Reason is, with constructivism, which is kind of Vertov's whole thing. You know, he was like trying to combine those two. So you kind of get the Vertov feel, but also like this Dada kind of like basically he's not trying to make it sense, you know.
Yeah.
Sorry. I have to make this. I have to like show you guys this. Dudley Murphy directed a movie called The Sport Parade that stars Joel McCrea. The guy from Stars.
Yeah. I know Joel McCrea.
He stars in the movie that Dudley Murphy directed called The Sport Parade.
Wait, who's Joel McCrea?
The guy from Stars in My Crown, the pastor. The main character from Stars in My
Okay,
Crown.
but what else have I seen? Like, I remember him, like, it should be, like...
That's in Wichita.
Is that not like a big movie? Wichita...
Okay.
I don't know if you've seen really anything else. I mean, Stranger on Horseback. That's another Turner movie.
He's like a Turner guy.
Well, no, he actually was. He's in Sullivan's Travels, which is like a big. He's in Turner. He was very prominent in Hollywood. Like he was a prominent actor that also happened to be in some Turner movies, which I feel like were more like they weren't his most popular movies. His Turner movies.
Mm.
Like he had other movies that were more popular because he was like a big Western guy. Also, he had quite a few different genres, to be honest. Anyway.
Okay, yeah, let me go back. Okay. Damn, that was, I mean, it always comes back to Hollywood, doesn't it?
For Luke.
No, okay. We're trying to get out of the Hollywood farm.
No, something else that I would say about most of the shorts, most of them, because some of them are more, I mean, they're all kind of poetic, I guess, but a lot of them I like the energy that they have, because they have energy. Just in general, like a lot of movement and a lot of energy.
Yes.
Which the movement is crazy because there's obviously a lot of times not real bodies in movement, but there's still movement on the frame, which they're definitely drawing attention to.
Yes, no, I like that. Let me read No, well, I'll definitely come back to that too, especially for like the absolute filmmakers, which is Rhythmus 21. I kind of did them in the order that you watched them. So we're gonna go in the order that at least I listed them. I don't know if you watched them in that order.
No, I watched them in that order.
Me too.
Okay, yeah, because that's the order. Like that order is specific for a reason. I was gonna say I was gonna list for A.L. Reese. He lists, and this is basically for all experimental films. So all of these examples aren't found in the movies we did, but he points out some examples like single framing, painted or scratched film, extended dissolves, long takes, flicker editing, cut ups, fake sync, outdated film stock, found footage, out of focus lens, intermittent projections. That's just some of the examples he lists of like basic experimental techniques to what he says. I need to read it because he put it in a good way, where he says, "This mistrust of apparent continuity, the refusal to disavow what one knows about illusionism in order to believe in its impressionism, has driven avant-garde filmmakers using the various techniques listed." And basically this idea of using those techniques to break continuity, you know? I hadn't heard of this word before I started reading about experimental film. What I've kind of already talked about this a little bit on the montage episode as well. This idea of the word. Have you guys heard the word paratactic montage?
I have not.
Let me read what the Google definition is. Even though it doesn't, the placing of clauses or phrases one after another without words to indicate coordination or subordination. And basically this idea, well, he puts it in a way is like a discontinuity principle. So if we say like what we've talked about already, Hollywood is and narrative cinema is trying to editing of continuity. This is more about discontinuity.
No, there's an example I found on Google Images.
Okay.
Where it's a sentence that's, "We lived and laughed and loved and left," which is like not traditional like structure.
Yes.
Usually like
actually that makes me think of the Arabesque movie we watched. The one about where it has the poem at the beginning.
Okay, yeah.
You guys probably didn't. I had translated. I don't know if it had a translation. If you guys watch on YouTube, but there's like a poem at the beginning. I translated it.
Oh, I recognized the poem at the beginning. It was in French or whatever.
Yeah.
But I did not know what it said. Did not have translations.
No, but yeah. So I looked it up on Google. Because it basically says first evenings of spring, breezes, light fevers, softness of the eyes, warmth of the hands, languor of the lips. And basically, like, that's basically what the film is, you know, almost like these kind of shots of that. Honestly, that was a good example. But, and yeah, basically, I guess in a way to put it is, and he says there's basically two extremes of what he calls this paratactic editing. and he says one is rapid cutting, all the way down to the single frame. And I mentioned that because for Stan Brakhage that we're going to do in a few weeks, he's literally doing every single frame. He's wanting you to almost notice in a way, even though he is showing them really fast, this rapid cutting, but each frame is different. That's why it feels rapid, And then he says at the other extreme, the film is treated as a raw strip, and that's what you could say is these kind of these painted directly on film films we're about to do with with Len Lai and Norman McLaren, the first two movies we did. Those are basically painted directly on film.
Yeah.
To where you don't even need a camera, and the camera, this, like he says, it's treated as a raw strip. To where that's basically the exact opposite of this kind of rapid cutting where you're doing every frame, individually. And he says those are kind of the two extremes of this discontinuity editing. Where if you say because normally editing is trying to get in the middle where you're not noticing those, but these two extremes are really making you notice it in a way, the fact that it is a film's at least at this time for all these films it was a film strip. Now it's a digital image, but that's what's kind of funny. That's also what makes these films really cool too. Is these are all these would all be do digital now in a way. So it if you only know about digital images, you'd be you could see oh, this is not that impressive, without understanding how much difficulty it would be to make this on film stocks. And then so one more thing before I get to the movies is I actually had never known this, but William C. Wee says that in Greek the word aesthetics, its technical definition was apparently things perceptible to the senses. And so he says basically experimental films are kind of true films about aesthetics, in that they turn, quote, the sense of sight into an art of seeing. And I really like that quote because it's makes seeing itself an art. It's drawing attention to it, making you realize that you are seeing. But yeah. So now I'm gonna go into. Let me list off the 5 categories that I had the list. Oh yeah, I did make the list public on Letterboxd now.
Okay.
So it'll be in the show description. You can see I think 12 movies we're doing. I think it was.
Is this is this a longer week compared to
probably? I haven't decided after next week yet, so. And I just decided next week. It's this morning, so.
Experimental structure to picking the.
Let's go.
Series.
Well, I might watch a few more brackets before I decide.
Danny's gonna text us 1 week. It's gonna be the night before.
Well, he already did this week and said, "Hey, I changed the movie."
He's gonna be
okay, but have you even watched
watched all of them?
Have you?
Yeah.
No.
Okay, I wasn't bringing that up though. That was Blake's point. I'm just saying.
But yeah, that is a good question. But yeah, the long answer is I don't know.
Don't lose my stats though.
Yes, sir.
That's all that matters.
That's the only reason. That's why everyone should follow along, because this is the easiest week. These will be the easiest series to follow along with.
Yeah.
I mean,
Even though it could be hard. Did you guys watch all these back to back?
Yeah. I watched the first.
Did you find any difficulty with that?
Well,
it is a lot. It's a lot of just non-narrative. Because it's not the same as watching 90 minutes of a straight narrative movie.
I just kind of locked in though.
Alright, we'll see about that.
I would say
I quiz you. It's a test at the end.
Oh,
no, I'm kidding.
Luckily I have my computer.
No, because I would fail it too. So
I watched the first 6 and then my eyes got tired, so I literally took a nap and then I watched
He's calling it boring.
No.
Actually, I just listened to
there are some of these that are very difficult for my eyes to watch, just in general.
Well, that's the thing. It's drawing attention to your eyes. It's trying to draw attention.
It's just funny with said difficult for my eyes to watch, because that could be used as a diss.
I mean, it could be, but I'm not saying it as a diss. I just mean
actually, for some of these, they would have taken that as a compliment.
Yeah,
the Return to Reason.
The amount of images that they're wanting me to take in all at once is a lot.
Yeah. Plus, I was about to mention these categories, but the Dada's the realist category movies we did, which were Return to Reason and Anemic Cinema. they might actually take that as a compliment of Blake saying that.
The anemic cinema one, I remember that one probably one of the most.
Human
honestly,
Centipede was difficult for my eyes to watch.
I mean, that's just the spiral one, right?
Yeah, that's the spiral one.
The spiral.
And it keeps going back and forth to.
Look, we don't have to mention their names. You just got to mention something like the spiral one.
The spiral one.
Well, there's multiple spiral ones. Motion painting as spiral too.
Oh fuck, you're right. The diagonal one.
That's the diagonal one is easy. That's Diagonal Symphony.
The fucking banana.
That's one of my favorites.
One.
Banana shape.
Banana shape for the Diagonal Symphony one.
No, it's another one. Is it not? There's one where it's like a bunch of them are like they're like a banana or something, right?
You have a list of movies pulled up. Which one is it?
I don't remember the exact one.
Bananas.
Is it? Oh, it's Lichtspiel.
Lichtspiel.
Opus.
The Walter Ruttman one.
Yeah.
Light play. I think Lichtspiel means.
They're all like kind of like
opus
bananas.
Like that,
interesting.
Curve. I would just go curves.
Yeah, I don't
know banana.
I was trying to describe the generic shape of it, and it was kind of
banana
curve.
Really, because the thing that I
curve would have been better than banana for sure.
Pineapple. Cut pine.
I would call the Lichtspiel one like the dagger one.
Yeah.
Honestly,
or
like sharp objects.
Well, to me, it's the round versus curves or circle.
Yeah, something like that. Because I just had sharp objects are dangerous. That was
I was just trying to think of something. I was trying to think of a way to describe curves.
That one's probably the most dramatic one we've done of all the ones we're doing. But okay, I've been saying I'm gonna read these 5 categories, and I keep not reading them.
Yeah, sorry.
The first one or the first 2 is direct on film animation.
Okay.
And so what is that? Basically the one I already talked about. Those were the first 2. That was a Color Box and Be Gone Dull Care. And basically, okay, so direct on film animation, Dada Surrealism were the next 2. Return to Reason, Anemic Cinema. And then after Anemic Cinema, in the order we had was Games on Reflection and Speed and Arabesque. I definitely don't know if I'm saying that right. But
I mean, it's spelled Arabesque. So
Arabesque. I'm gonna say it. Yeah, that's probably better. That is the category of cinepoems, or what Henry Chomet calls pure cinema, which I'll get to in a second. And then the 4th category is called absolute film, and those were the 4 films of Motion Painting number 1, Rhythm 21, Lichtspiel Opus 1, and Diagonal Symphony. And then the last category is basically he called the French Avant-Garde. And those were Ballet Mécanique and Autumn Miss. So yeah, we're about to go.
You don't think Autumn Miss can go in with Arabesque and Games on Reflection, though?
It 100% can. It probably, I mean, yeah, all these aren't strict categories because that's, there's another connection there that, so the cinema poems, Henry Chomet, he's actually the brother of René Clair.
Okay.
And René Clair actually made one of the films that he mentioned, the French Avant-Garde, called Entr'acte. I don't know if you guys have seen that one.
I have not.
Have you? But you guys have heard of it? If you look up on Letterboxd, you might recognize it.
Well, how do you spell it?
ENTR.
Just look up René Clair.
Yeah, look up René Clair. It'll be one of his most popular. But yeah, that's his brother, and so yeah, obviously there's a really close connection there. Another one of the films we've already done for the French Avant-Garde, and that's why I didn't pick it.
Is it this one?
Yes, that one.
Okay. Entr'acte. Interesting.
We could have done that one, but it was maybe too long.
It's only 20 minutes.
20 minutes. It's that's a feature length here. But we've also done another one in that French Avant-Garde that I was gonna. If you guys can on the podcast.
La Jetée?
No. French Avant-Garde. This is 20s, 30s.
Prince Ahmed.
On what series?
Well, that would give it away.
Hold on.
Oh, it was no, it's Buñuel. Yeah.
Un Chien Andalou.
Yeah, Un Chien Andalou.
I forgot that was French.
Yeah.
I thought that was Spanish.
He's Spanish, but he made it in France.
Forgot he just flip-flop.
Actually, did he make that in France? He might have made that in Spain.
No, I think he did.
Actually, yeah, yeah. It's just confusing because Dali's also Spanish too.
So why did they make
But I'm pretty sure he moved to France when he made that.
it is made in France.
Yeah, it was part of this whole French avant-garde. And see, that's why it's tough, because he's also obviously part of the surrealist movement as well at the time. So, like, obviously he's on firm categories.
Would Jean Vigo be in the... I guess they're more French poetic realists.
But I think he would count.
Maybe he's like... Maybe there's some overlap.
Yeah.
Although he's still...
I think he's part of the French avant-garde, honestly. He would be considered part of that.
Although he made like 2 movies.
Yeah, a lot of these guys didn't make very many.
Well,
like,
Jean Vigo died.
I will say a lot... some of... Like, I think the one that you actually cut, the 5 minutes of pure cinema, that reminded me probably the most of, like Cocteau or something.
Cocteau. Actually, Cocteau is another one he mentions in the French avant-garde.
Okay. That makes perfect sense.
He mentions Blood of a Poet.
Yeah, Blood of... I've watched that one. So.
Yeah, but like that, obviously that one's like an hour long. But yeah, Cocteau would be fun to do. Did you ever read more of that book?
I actually started this week. So.
Oh shit! Wait, is it his book?
It's a biography. He hasn't written. It's not one that he wrote, but it's a biography on him, and it like has like one chapter I think on the movies. The rest of it is about just his life in general. So I'm kind of excited to get to it. So.
Because remember we talked about Rivette saying the reason he got into cinema was he read John Cocteau's notes on Beauty and the Beast. While he was making the film.
Also got it.
And it basically is like, because I've seen some, I actually have it downloaded, I can send it to you.
Cocteau was also a huge influence on me.
That's not surprising at all.
That makes sense.
Yeah. I don't really know anything about Cocteau though, so I don't even know why.
Have you not seen The Beauty and the Beast?
I've seen, that's the one movie of his I've seen. But I don't know anything about him. Or like...
I'm saving Orpheus probably until I finish reading the book. Because I've heard that's his magnum opus or whatever. So, which I know that he only has like 6 movies or something, but
I know because like those are the trilogy, right?
Yeah.
So I've only seen
because I watched Blood of a Poet, and there's a Testament to Orpheus which I haven't watched also. I think that's in that trilogy.
But so we'll go by one on the categories. We won't go too long on some of these. But what do you guys think about A Color Box and Beyond Dull Care? The first 2 ones. Those are the direct-on film animations. Was there anything specific that stood out?
I really like Color Box, but whenever I was saying my eyes got tired, that was Beyond Dull Color. That one made my head hurt a little bit watching it, honestly. Until it slowed down. I really liked whenever it slowed down, the lines started moving really slowly. But before that, and then a little bit after it, I was like, oh my god, there's just so much motion going on that's making my eyes hurt a little bit.
What about Luke?
A lot of great colors. I guess like...
It is hard to talk, but even for me, I'm like one of my favorite things was like, it is just the more of the rhythm of like, it feels like very chaotic, and then all of a sudden it got like really
slow.
Calm and slow.
Yeah,
there's also like this like thin line that sometimes come across.
The thin line makes me think of guitar strings or something like that.
Yeah, and it'll just like flow across the screen, and all of a sudden there's like little dots and stuff.
They are very similar in that way. But Beyond the Car felt maybe a bit more like chaotic to me.
No, because this is honestly one of my favorites because of that contrast of like how chaotic like the colors are, and then all of a sudden like in my notes I have like around the 3-4 minute mark.
It's the black background.
Yeah, the black background, and then there's like these little tiny white lines. You know, almost looks like the Diagonal Symphony later on.
I like the use of the text in Color Box.
I did too. I like Color Box
and stuff like
a lot.
They feel like the Godard type thing. Do you not know?
Number Box?
Like this shit.
Oh, okay. Oh, you know why that is? I should have mentioned that. It's because this was technically a commercial.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, this was for that parcel service or something.
Bro, that's why I was wondering whenever the parcel thing came up. Yes. I was like, is this a commercial?
Honestly, I'm glad you said that because I was gonna forget to mention that. But both of these were commercials. And they were just finding
Color was a commercial.
Yeah.
For what?
A Color Box.
No, Beyond Dull Color. What was that?
Is this parcel service like specialized in delivering like LSD or something?
Actually, was this one?
LSD wasn't created back then. It was created in the 60s, I think.
Actually, I don't know if this one Beyond Dull Care was.
Is it drugs?
Now that I say that, I don't know if Beyond Dull Care was.
That one I couldn't see unless it was like definitely a commercial for the jazz or whatever. Because that I could see.
But basically, the only reason I wanted to point out these two was also, I mean, these are beautiful movies. You should definitely watch them. You know, like it's gonna take up like 10 minutes of your time. But the reason A.L. Reese says is the reason why these these kind of films attracted filmmakers back then and continue to attract filmmakers is it made possible to direct camera-less film. So basically, you don't need a camera to make these. You know, you're literally directly directly working on the film and then projecting the film itself. So like, it takes out one of the hardest parts of making a film of needing to record something with a camera, and it's saying like you don't even need that part to make a film. And I just think like, especially,
I mean, George Méliès was like so close to this already. Like with
just
the colorized versions of his movies back in the day. Yeah. Like,
I mean, but like that's why I love these. Just like, but what if we did that without people?
Without people, yeah.
You know, and that's where you can really see obviously they were getting inspiration from the abstract art movement outside of just cinema, because cinema wasn't having stuff like this.
No, definitely.
You know? Cinema, like that's where the David Lynches and Godards get it from, these guys, you know. And also Godards obviously into painting as well. I mean, a lot of filmmakers were. But so yeah, the next category is I think I said surrealist. Honestly, like I don't have too much on this one. One thing A.L. Reese pointed, he just pointed out this. Okay, first, like he said, a lot of times people think of surrealism as David Lynch. Okay, like when they think of surrealism, they think of like David Lynch, or I think he says Terry Gilliam in his book, right? These kind of like extravagant images, wacky. Very like a lot going on. Yeah. But what he says is, while surrealism is often understood as excessive, spectacular images, the group in fact wanted to draw the marvelous from the banal or the everyday. Yeah. And that's, I think, especially true with, honestly, you can say with a lot of these movies that we're going to see that film in the real world, but especially with Return to Reason and Anemic Cinema, these are just everyday objects, you know? Like, The Spiral is really simple, but it's trying to make you have that feeling of surrealism, you know? But nowadays, people are just like, oh, it's like something really crazy is going on screen, it's surrealist. I even saw someone on Twitter today post this for like did you see this? I don't know if you saw it.
When you say someone posted something on Twitter,
well, it was like it was like a reviewer, you know, the quote they put on a poster. I forgot what new movie it was, but the quote was, "It's surreal like it's surreal like a David Lynch movie," or something like that, as like a compliment. So like this world, obviously he says this too. Like surrealism is the most popular and widely known of all these art movies I'm talking about. But I wish I could find. I liked it on Twitter, so I know if I scroll through, I could find it. But I'd have to stop the podcast to do that. So, what do you guys think of? What do you guys remember about Return to Reason or Anemic Cinema? I think Blake said Anemic Cinema is one of the most memorable. Or
well, Anemic Cinema is one of the most memorable just because of the spirals. Like I was like, it started, and I was like, this thing's just trying to hypnotize me. And we just watched Cure, obviously, so I was like, what are they trying to do to me here? But,
yeah, someone's trying to like mind control me or something. Like it feels like a mind control experiment.
Yeah, okay, the quote was like a surreal David Lynch movie.
But what movie are they talking about?
Keeper. A Dark Trip from Osgood Perkins.
Oh, that guy.
And the quote was from Eli Roth. Like a surreal David Lynch movie. So not only is it like a David Lynch movie, it's like a surreal David Lynch movie. So like it's even more extreme.
Eli Roth saying it.
But it's like this quote, it's actually taking the surreal word like it's like you misusing it just like on so many levels.
There's just the further you get into that, the more there's just so many levels of bad there.
Unless it's an insanely good movie of like it's that meta where it makes David Lynch movies look narrative because that's how surreal it is. It's like like a surreal.
Oh, okay. I know what you're saying. Like it's a surreal David Lynch.
That's what
like
the quote is saying.
Actually surreal. Like
yeah, that's what the quote is saying.
Let's not
surrealer than surreal.
Let's not give Eli Roth any credit whatsoever.
Like a surreal David Lynch movie.
I'm not giving any.
He's saying David Lynch is too normal. You know, too normal.
I'm not tipping any.
That's why Osgood Perkins had to come along.
I'm not having any sympathy for Eli Roth.
But it's for Osgood Perkins.
Isn't he like bad or something?
I think he made Long Legs.
I watched Long Legs, but I forgot a lot.
Probably will.
I didn't even log it.
If I watch it, let's be real. That seems like
okay. But Okay, but Return to Reason or Anemic Cinema, anything?
Return to the Reason, that's the one that I was like, one of the ones that I was like, you're gonna have to tell me what this one kind of means, I guess, or not like means, but I just find it awesome that it's called Return to Reason that just ends with tits.
It goes back and forth between like the animation and then like the actual images, or like real life images. I should say.
Honestly, this one is
spinning,
like,
doesn't it have the spinning thing with the shadow behind it? Because that reminds me of Alphaville a lot, but like
honestly,
the little line or whatever with the shadow going off behind it.
A lot of shadows in this one.
Maybe. Yeah, I think it's actually the header on Letterboxd for it.
I think I know what. Wait.
I mean,
that's right here.
Oh yes,
the thing that reminds me a lot of Alphaville.
Honestly, this part reminds me more of Alphaville in it. These shots. Where it has like the little lights. That's more Alphaville to me.
Well, because the carnival.
Some of this, this is where you can really see guards. Maybe some of these just kind of basically using the everyday to go back to Godard and how he films Alphaville is using the everyday like he used Paris.
Yeah.
But to make something feel kind of surreal, you know. And these were more Dada films too. And I don't know too much about Dadaism, but the whole point was to kind of be not making sense. That's why for even me, these are hard to watch. Like and in the book, he doesn't talk too much about them in specifically. He kind of just gives these as like, these are two of the emblematic Dada films of these early 1920s avant-garde films. And I mean, to be honest, they're not my favorite. Like I prefer like Buñuel's kind of surrealism, but I do like Anemic Cinema. Like if I could read, I don't understand all the puns too. Apparently, they're supposed to be like meaningless puns.
We'll see, like on whatever the word spinning. Like that was one that was like fun little parts and put in there.
Yeah.
Because I was like, oh, it's actually like spelling out a phrase that I don't know what it's saying, but I'm sure it's funny.
But I don't think it's supposed to be like something that makes sense. Like even in France, if they were watching it, like it'd be
That's why I thought I was trying to
like that's what Dadaism was supposed to be. Like it was kind of rejection of art at the time, you know. But yeah, we can we'll keep going to the Cinepoems now. And this is one of my favorite ones. What do you guys think of I think we did Games on Speed and Reflection and Arabesque. Is there anything that stood out for these? Let me, I guess, as you think about it, what Ayla Reese says was the goal of the Cinepoem, or these Cinepoems, was kind of similar to surrealism, but maybe with a different goal in mind, is to abstract from the visible world in order to transform it. It wasn't an abandonment of referentiality, but to cast referential in a new and more material light. And basically, I like that first part, was to abstract from the visible world in order to transform it, you know, to make it poetic. I do think both of these movies do a great job of that, and I think that's also a really good reason to compare these. One of you guys compare these to the last movie we did, Autumn Mist.
Yeah, I did, yeah.
Okay, yeah, I think that's because I think it does have something very similar.
How do you pronounce that?
Arabesque. That's what we're going with anyway.
I really liked the way it uses light.
Yes.
It's like a lot of it's just like light kind of reflecting off stuff, like objects. Like there's like the disco ball, there's like water.
See, the disco ball itself, I didn't know if it was a disco ball. I just call it a spinning orb. But every time, it just reminded me of, you already mentioned kind of time. But my notes for Arabesque were the spinning orb leads me to think of the Wheel of Time, especially when we're cutting back to just flowers in bloom and like a woman smiling or something like that.
I mean, that goes perfect with the quote. I mean, the poem after I read it to you, right? Like the spring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just a bunch of images of like running water and flowers, and then like the woman smiling or something like that. Like,
and like stuff like plants growing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like flowers blooming, I guess.
Yes. Because let me mention this because it's gonna be important actually with next week with Maya Deren. But he wants to bring up this idea of poetry and what these kind of people were reading at the time. Were these literary critics named Roman Jakobson and this other guy named Shklovsky. I can't say it. I'm not even Shklovsky.
Close enough.
And they basically, I brought this idea up with Rossellini actually. The idea of the difference between poetry and prose. I don't know if you guys remember me talking about that.
I vaguely
Like with I think it was the Plato episode, if I remember, the Socrates episode, if I remember correctly. The idea of like basically prose being too literal, too literary, and but we need basically more poetry.
Yeah.
But basically, what a long story short, they had this split of this idea of poetry and this idea of prose, and they said, quote, in the cinema of poetry, elements of form determine the composition and prevail over elements of meaning. And I think it's a great example for. That's why I'm glad I asked you guys the question first of what you guys thought, because you guys all mentioned basically formal elements of the movie. You know, shots of this or shots of that, or like you didn't actually necessarily mention meaning so much, like what the whole thing means. You know, because like it's not supposed to have a singular meaning. It wants you to focus on these kind of like just formal elements of what it's doing. And you could say that's kind of the poetry of like of trying to see these things that they're shooting of everyday life and kind of putting them together in almost a poetic way, and make you think about it in a different way. Let me read before we go to the next one. Let me read Henry Chomet's. It's like he actually has two great quotes. I'll read both. He says, quote, thanks to this rhythm, the cinema can draw from itself a new power, abandoning the logic of facts and reality of objects, generates a succession of unfamiliar visions, inconceivable outside the union of lens and moving film strip, intrinsic or pure cinema, separated from all other elements, dramatic or documentary. And then he also said, why should the cinema not create, with the domain of sound combined with that of light, pure rhythm and pure form? And I think if that's a good, you could see that's kind of what they were going for, you know, with these films. So yeah, like outside of meaning, I brought this like I've even brought this up with Ozu, where Boardwell talks about Ozu like this, where he's like meaning's not the only reason to watch an Ozu movie. It's for like the elements of form, you know. You can kind of see a theme with some of my favorite directors and why what led me to this point. But so the next category we did is, these were the next 4 movies: Motion Painting number 1, Rhythm 21, Lichtspiel Opus 1, and Diagonal Symphony. These are called absolute film, and you could say these are 4 films, and this kind of absolute film movement was the reason I ended up doing this early cinema anyway, because it's I've read a decent amount. I've read some about just abstraction of this time, especially the painters Kandinsky, and there's another painter named Mondrian that I really like. And I've read like Kandinsky's. I didn't even know this while doing this episode, like before starting this series, was one of like the most influential people on these absolute filmmakers was this painter Wassily Kandinsky. And last year I read his book called Concerning the Spiritual in Art, and that book is basically about like how he saw abstraction to connect to the spiritual. And a lot of these 4 filmmakers basically have very similar ideas. You know, they're trying to take that idea that Kandinsky had in painting and apply it to film techniques. You know, and then obviously in these 4 are all in the 4 ways. But so let me ask you, is there any of these 4 stand out? Because yes, I'm grouping all 4, but as even I'm just like looking at the names, like all 4 of them are very different in their own ways. You know,
I mean, I love the continuity of Motion Painting number 1. The fact that like it like genuinely like feels like a journey. He just takes you to places like you just don't know what's gonna happen next, which I guess is like you could say about other movies that we watched for this episode, but like especially this one, I feel like he just goes so many places, different colors, different shapes, different rhythms. And then Lichtspiel, I kind of like I don't know what you call this, like it's like you got like little like curvature thingies whipping like in and out of frame and stuff, and like just like the different colors of it, and kind of like I guess like he's like kind of like each of the different shapes he brings up, they're all doing very similar things and where like how they're like going across the screen, but they're just like different shapes and colors. I don't know how to like describe that well.
Well, I think Dany said earlier whenever we were talking about the sharp objects and stuff, it's like sharp versus dull or sharp versus curved.
Curves or like circles.
Because it's like every time
it seems like a drama.
Yeah, every time the daggers or the sharp edges come out, I'm like, oh, watch out.
Like, no, yeah, I think he wants you to have those feelings. You know, those kind of like, to him, almost like natural, like even like simple forms can make you have these kind of reactions. You know, of a sharp versus just a.
Rhythm 21 was like cool with like the squares, like almost like creating new frames, I guess you could say. Like minimize, like zooming in and out, sort of.
That's one of the ones I didn't
creating
have much on, honestly, was Rhythm 21.
Squares.
I would say, honestly, that's probably my least favorite of these four.
Because Diagonal Symphony I like too, but after watching Motion Painting 1, I do think they were doing kind of a similar thing. Well, not necessarily. Because they're the Diagonal Symphony, the note that I had is I like how my eyes were always drawn to the top before going down. As where, like, basically the picture's getting drawn in. Like, like you're just following it.
Actually, there's one thing I'm going to... This is actually a... because this is actually maybe I'm going to get a little more into the background before how we got. I only mentioned Victor Kaninsky, but I'm going to mention some background into like how they got to where they did. Where basically first, does the word musical come to your mind when you think of these movies?
Yeah, for Motion Painting for sure. And then I feel like the Lichtspiel Opus was.
Because think about all these have like most of these have musical like titles almost.
Yeah,
like
musical
Opus
accompany. Well, I'm pretty sure the Opus 1 is accompanied by an actual musical score.
And so is Motion Painting.
Because both of those were made for that.
Was it one of them? Yeah. Like it was like a jazz thing.
I don't think so.
I think that was Opus 1, wasn't it?
Lichtspiel Opus 1.
I don't remember which one.
Diagonal Symphony, maybe they added a jazz after, but I think that's supposed to be silent.
I know, because one of them was made with a jazz group.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was like, wait, which one?
I don't know if it was one of these or if it was a different one, but I know that one of them was made with a jazz group. Like it was made for that specific song that we're watching. Or that we're listening to, I guess, but...
Honestly, it's funny that Godard has come up because I do think that's kind of perfect for like also what I'm about to say, because it also reminds me of how Godard felt about cinema at his time. But basically, for these absolute filmmakers and a lot of these abstract artists at the time, they and you have to remember this is basically right after World War II, and a lot of them saw. Basically, they saw European civilization as old and basically, in their view, needing totally new art forms. And for them, the perfect art was music. And why? Because it doesn't have any references. You know, it's based purely on sounds. And they were trying to come up with basically a new kind of art that would be on par using cinema or forms the same way music does with sounds. And you could say all four of these films are trying to do that in their own unique way. And that's the idea with especially, honestly, all of these. But especially Diagonal Symphony and Rhythm 21. This idea of trying to use forms rhythmically to make you have an experience visually the same way you would have an auditory experience that listen to sounds that are controlled, you know. And the reason why I have that two split of Richter and the Rhythm 21 and Diagonal Symphony versus Lichtspiel Opus 1 and Motion Painting is those first, the later two, those have musical accompaniments on purpose. Like the animation, in a way, was kind of designed with the musical score in mind. You know, they're almost like, especially in Motion Painting 1, you can see like the lines going exactly with the music. But with Rhythm 21 and Diagonal Symphony, those are supposed to be silent because.
Well, I did watch Rhythm 21 silently. So
okay,
I watched.
But Diagonal Symphony and in the Bruce Elder book I read, he literally goes by shot-to-shot description, and if you pay attention to the movie, he he basically shows you 12 different forms that apparently Egling has spent like a lot of time on, like he had this like whole categorization of all these like different forms, the same way you might categorize sounds or something, like at the beginning of the movie I was watching for this time, you see like each form individually come up on screen almost, and like in different ways, and then he starts really playing with them, and like the same way like sounds like if you're listening to like a great this kind of classical music where all these instruments are playing, but it sounds harmonious. He's trying to do that with all these little forms that he's doing, these like different kind of forms that he's putting together one by one, like quickly, and almost like, to me it's almost like a dance with the forms he's using. And I'll show you guys a picture after, but he has like the pictures of just the different forms like individually, and then it kind of like it makes the movie really like I don't know, it makes it really really fun to watch.
Wait, which one are you talking about again?
Rhythm
Diagonal Symphony.
Diagonal Symphony.
Yeah. Rhythm 21 is just squares.
Yeah, it's just squares.
It's just squares. That one's a little more simpler. But yeah. But basically that musical aspect, like for like people can understand that idea really simply. What if I say, musical is non-referential and it still draws emotion,
Yeah.
But for cinema, it's like a really really hard thing for people to get up by. It's like for cinema you have to have reference something. You have to represent something in a way. Yeah, if that makes sense. But I guess I had some more. I think I already mentioned this earlier, but Fischinger, he was probably the most commercial one. He moved to America later and like worked on some Disney movies. I think he even helped on Fantasia, and they had like a falling out with Walt Disney. And I already mentioned because I've already mentioned some of the stuff that I haven't noticed, like where one of the critics for Rhythmus 21, I think, even though I think Blake has already said this, and I kind of agree, like it was my least favorite of these four, it does kind of emphasize the idea of the movie screen as a canvas.
Yeah, sure.
Where the squares are literally coming out of the canvas itself, versus like it doesn't even try to make the illusion that you're looking at something real or something. It's just a rhythm of like what's directly on screen. And he puts it in a way where it's like the surface is also now in dynamic movement. Where the surface isn't just something you're looking through, but the surface actually involved almost. That it's forcing you to watch the surface itself. And that'll definitely come up in some of these later films that we're going to do in the future weeks as well. And even though I've said the Hans Richter one is my least favorite, he also has some of my favorite quotes and just like writing on film, and he even has like this like 10-minute interview thing on YouTube that's pretty good. But I've mentioned over the course of these series the idea of presentation versus representation, and abstraction is a big part of that idea. This idea of, instead of representing something, is it possible to just produce something without having reference to something else? And you could say that's a big part of abstraction. But Hans Richter quote, he says, relating to film, he says, quote, "The main aesthetic problem in the movies, which were invented for reproduction of movement, is paradoxically the overcoming of reproduction. In other words, the question is, to what degree is the camera developed and used, or to produce, to what degree is the camera developed and to use or to produce? In the words of Budovkin, what is a work of art before it comes in front of the camera, such as acting, staging, or the novel is not a work of art on the screen." Unquote. And then he says, "Even to the sincere lover of the film in its present form, it must be seen that the film is overwhelmingly used for keeping records of creative achievements, of plays, actors, novels, or just plain nature." And I love that last part where he's like, basically, even to film lovers, it just, for the most part, film is used to keep records of other creative achievements. So like it records other plays, it records actors, it records novels, it records just plain nature, like a documentary. But is it actually doing something itself, or is it just recording, like you said, other achievements? And it's like, damn, it's even still true today. Like the search for IP, right? That's what this is. It's like you're already searching for something that was successful, so then you can film it. right? Instead of being like, what's new? What is why can't what are you producing that's brand new in a way?
You know that apparently, according to Hans Richter's Letterboxd bio, throughout his career, he claimed that his 1921 film Rhythmus 21 was the first abstract film ever created. But even the Letterboxd bio says this claim is not true. He was preceded by the Italian futurist Bruno Cora and Arnaldo Ghina between 1911 and 1912, as well as by fellow German artist Walter Ruttmann.
Well, that's the one we did, Lichtspiel 1.
Yeah, who produced Lichtspiel 1.
I was about to say that.
Yeah.
Also, but that's the thing. See, I already kind of mentioned this already, but Richter didn't like Ruttmann's
beef.
Well, it's because this idea, even of the idea, because I said for Ruttmann's movie and the Fischinger movie, they were making their forms based on music.
Yeah.
Right. So he's saying like that's already too classical.
Basing it on something else.
Yeah, and that's why I said it's important to draw the distinction because, like with Diagonal Symphony, he's trying to make symphony just out of the play of forms itself, without any music. And who does this sound similar to? That I mentioned fucking all the time. Bresson music. This is why Bresson hates music in films. It's like literally the same idea. It's like, are you using the film? Are you getting the emotion from the music, or are you creating the music itself through rhythm?
There's a lot of directors you mentioned,
But it's like this idea of rhythm, right? Like, are you? Actually, let me read. I have a. Honestly, I'm just gonna read a few quotes on rhythm because it drew me down a rabbit hole of my notes. Because first, Hans Richter said, quote, "The rhythm of a work is identical with the idea of the whole. Rhythm is that which conveys ideas, that which runs through the whole. Its meaning is principle, from which each individual work derives its significance. Rhythm is not a definitive regular sequence of time and space. It is the unity which ties all the parts into a whole." And I think that's like especially all these things, like, yes, these are individual forms, and there's this other quote that I was going to read, but it's like way too long. But like this idea of it's not just abstract images, right? It's the rhythm of abstract images is where you become poetic in a way, or that's what they're trying to do. It's up to you as the viewer to say whether they do it or not, But it's this rhythm, this idea. Rhythm is an idea that's not on the screen. It's almost in a way, in their view, a spiritual idea. Right, because it's something the viewer is putting together, using nature, the forms of nature, as I would say, and then making it rhythmic. And that led me to this, because like, it's crazy how a lot of my favorite filmmakers, they emphasize this idea of rhythm all the time. So I found this Vertov quote where he says, quote, "Film will represent the inner rhythm of all things." And then Brackage, I have to read this quote because it's so good. And he also this Brackage quote starts with the Bresson quote, and then he has his own. So he first quotes Bresson, and he says, "This is Bresson. Now I believe that access to the audience is before everything else a matter of rhythm. I am persuaded of that." Unquote. And then Brackage says, "And I think that's true. I think despite all of the crippling of the art. If I had to make a case, if I had to see the films enough in time to struggle with them and grapple with them, if I had to make the case for why The Yearling isn't an art and why Alcazar Balthazar is, in terms that would be significant for film, it would be to toss out all these literary illusions, all this essaying, all of whether one is acceptable to the latest New York structuralist crowd or never was, and it would say it's the basis of rhythm." And basically he's saying, like, if when it comes down to it, why, I actually looked up what The Yearling is. It was just like this old Hollywood movie. Yeah. He's saying why this movie isn't art versus why we should study Bresson's movie as art. Is, like he said, ignore all the literary stuff. It's just rhythm. It's how does this film create rhythm through its images. And then I had another Bresson quote where he says, quote, "To return for a moment, in my own work, I attach a great importance to form. An enormous importance, and I believe that form generates rhythm, and that rhythm is all-powerful. It's the primary thing." And then I have to my favorite quote, maybe my favorite film quote of all time. It's the one I've been trying to write about for a while. The Monty Qual quote. It's like a aphorism that he wrote, and it's a quote: "Time as attention, attention as rhythm, the invisible shape of the film. Does that make sense? It kind of makes sense. I mean, if you think about it, really, I've thought about it a lot. This idea of the invisible shape of film being time, basically equating time, attention, and rhythm. And saying that's the invisible shape of the film. And
are you still writing about it?
I haven't touched it in a while, but
Damn.
I do need to come back to it. This has definitely made me think a lot more about it. Especially, and that's why, especially, it's important with these films, these four specifically, because they are, abandoning referentiality at all of it, and like that's why they call themselves absolute filmmakers in a way, because they also died quickly because of how Bruce Elder puts it. These last two movies we're doing, and what they brought to the table to this kind of experimental. What two films was it? Ballet Mécanique and Autumn Miss. And if I had to ask you, what are these two? What are the difference about these two versus the ones we just did?
Well, they're basically all real images.
Yes, yes, that's exactly that's the difference. And so, so why would this change them in a way?
Well, because you were mentioning like the experimental film, it's like when you're like saying it's like music and how they're just like there's not a reference point.
Yes.
For these movies, there is a reference point, and that's the world.
Yes. Yeah.
Like as bad as you put it, like kind of like.
But and then, like I would continue it as like the reason why they like Hans Richter, he started making more referential movies in a way after this. All of them did. Like one of the, I think Ruttman's most famous movie is the Berlin Symphony movie. Okay, the kind of like Vertov movie before Vertov, the man with the movie camera on. I've actually seen that too. It's good, but this kind of abstraction that I was just talking about, and this musicality of abstraction. If you look at these later films, they still have that rhythmic aspect to them, but they're filming reality. Versus they're still trying to, abstract form the forms of nature as these abstract the absolute filmmakers were, but they're still filming reality directly and still trying to do that. And that was actually apparently like a big kind of influence. Is like we don't have to just be purely abstract. Like we can use cinema's camera in a way and still achieve the same kind of abstraction through the world itself. Yeah. And that's where I mentioned like A.L. Reese said the three major films of this period were René Clair's Entracte, Ferdinand Leger's Ballet Mécanique, and then Buñuel's Un Chien Andalou. But then, because we had already done Un Chien Andalou, I also picked the Kirsanov movie that he also mentioned Kirsanov as one of these directors. Well, that one was longer too. But also, this one is better because I want to do this for a few. I like this one. I love this. Actually, Autumn Miss is one of my favorite ones.
No, Autumn Miss is amazing.
Autumn Miss is really good.
And
because it kind of gives off
who does
this of the afternoon vibes.
Oh, there's actually another director that
like a dream.
We talked about. Not we didn't talk about this director on the podcast, but I talked about a movie that I watched recently that had an old silent film in it randomly.
Oh, Malley. Terry Malley.
Yes.
Like you're saying, like it reminds you of Malley.
Well, not only that, that silent film is from a Kirsanov movie, Menil-Montant.
It's on the song?
Yeah.
No, that's Greed.
That's not Greed, is it?
Yeah, it is.
Someone said it was on Menil-Montant.
Who said that?
I don't know. Some
song to song silent film. No, it's Greed. Who said it was?
I don't know. I read somewhere it was
Maybe it's both. Wait, let me go. Let me look this up.
Look up Menil-Montant Malik.
Wait, I'm going to the IMDb page, and there's going to be a section.
Because Malik has talked about Kirsanov. I'm almost positive.
Almost. Okay, yeah, there is. Okay, it does say edited from Menil-Montant. But I swear Greed was in it. Stroheim Malik. Maybe it's both? Like he does like both of them? So
Okay.
I swear, I looked this up the other week.
No, but either way, even more Autumn Mist is actually what reminds me more of Malick anyway. It's just like the shots of the sun and like basically intricating nature deeply into like the character's experience. You know, to almost like at the end of the movie, it almost feels like, at least in my mind, they're almost like the same, like the way the movie ends. It's also like one of the most beautiful movies. Like, that's why I think it also could fit in the poetic, like you were saying.
Well, it made me think of like Charlotta. Like this woman's just trapped in a house, but then she's freed somehow and allowed to go into nature.
I mean, there's a love letter. I don't know if you noticed the love letter she throws in the beginning.
Is that what that was?
Yeah,
I recognize because I said woman trapped in a house freed by fire ?
Yeah, well, I mean, it makes sense because she's freed by the fire, like with the love letter almost. Yeah, so like even if you're not knowing what that was, like your review still makes sense. No, but is there anything else that stood out about these two?
There's some crazy shots in Ballet.
It's like the kaleidoscope effect or something like that. Like you're looking through a kaleidoscope.
I wasn't thinking about.
Well, just the 5 shot, like the
for an Autumn Mist or
no for the Ballet McKinney.
I was saying the reflection shots of like the camera in the ball.
Oh, I did like that.
That was
it's
really
like
good.
weirdly clear.
That's where you get the Malick vibes for sure.
For
like made with the movie camera.
It's like it kind of has that wide lens effect, but also the fact that it's like 1924. It just feels so bizarre. You get a shot like that.
Also, the repeated shots of like, because earlier we see that ornament. I think it's like a camera swinging to the ornament, right?
That's what I was.
But earlier we see the people, like we see the cameraman.
No, that's what I was.
And then later we see it without. We just see the camera swinging with no people behind it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because this is why that's one shot that reminded me of Vertov actually more so than because Vertov has a shot. I'm pretty sure exactly like that.
I don't know if it's swinging.
I don't know if it's swinging, but it's definitely
he
a
shows
shot.
The cameraman. He shows a lot. Some reflections too.
Like, it's just such a bizarre shot to see.
Also, there's this. If you watch the beginning of the Ballet Mécanique, it has the. Apparently, that's supposed to be Charlie Chaplin, like.
There's
Charlot,
Chaplin.
Charlot.
There's a Charlie Chaplin at the beginning, but then there's also the Buster Keaton hat in the actual film.
Oh, so
like the hat that's in the movie that's what Buster wears all the time. Like I'm pretty sure that's the same exact type of hat. So that's something that I'd drawn also. But
and like I said, he was trying to like combine this Dada aspect with Vertov's constructivism, you know, of like filming reality. So it's kind of an interesting experiment.
I really like the woman in the movie too.
The woman,
like, because it's just like her face mostly, but that's kind of what the no, in Ballet McKinney, okay. Which I like the woman on this too, obviously. Yeah. But whenever I was saying the kaleidoscope effect, I don't know if that's the right term, but it's just the multiple shots. It's like you're a fly or something, like looking at this one picture, but it's like five different like images.
Yes, I know the one you're talking about.
Yeah, it's just like her mouth smiling, which was kind of creepy, but then you just see her face.
Don't we see the parrot in that too? There's like a parrot at some point.
A parrot?
Or a bird.
Yeah, a bird.
Yeah, there is.
I think it was a parrot, but no, it's a fun movie to watch for sure. Like I think energy is a good word, especially for this one. Honestly, the last one maybe not as much. It's probably the least,
that's why
at least it's more poetic and kind of like a Autumn Mist way.
Yes.
It's a perfect title.
It is a perfect title. And I love how she looks like a ghost at the end of the movie, at the end of Autumn Mist also.
See, that's what I was saying. Like, it kind of feels like she almost becomes like one with nature almost. Okay. Like the way, like a lot of these movies I love is where the characters feel so entrapped in nature. I mentioned, we haven't done the podcast, but like, why is Bodhidharma left for the East? Like that, and like I mentioned Malick already. Like, King Hu's another one. The Legend of the Mountain was another one I'm thinking of. Like, all these shots of nature make you feel like the character's kind of just like a part of it, you know. And then also just the camera effects of this one. These kind of like when she's like looking, and her eyes get really blurred, almost like if she's crying or something. And like the camera like kind of like flips upside down and stuff. Yeah, this one's one of my favorites.
I do love Autumn Mist. It was one of the better ones that we did this week for sure.
But yeah, that's all I had this week. To end it, let me read a Hans Richter quote that I think is kind of perfect. A good way to end this one, maybe kind of a preparation for the rest of the weeks too. As we maybe with some of these later movies, we'll able to get a lot more specific into them because we're not doing as many and they're not as random. But, quote, all these years I've worked with film, I worked in a kind of handicraft way, never in the industrial way. And the advantage is that you're independent, you can move in any direction you want, and you can be creative in your own way without being hampered by equipment. In doing these things, you learn something about film. And you learn that the Hollywood slick perfection isn't all, but that the spirit and the love to do the thing counts. So, and I think that's also a perfect quote to introduce what I'm doing next week, which is week 2, Maya Deren.
Haven't we done a Maya Deren on the pod?
I don't think we have.
If we did, we would have done meshes, and there's no. I don't think we've
If
done
we
that,
did, it
so.
might have been in the shorts episode, but I don't think Dany chose that for a short. I don't know if we've done.
Or maybe you just talked about it in a. That was like you definitely have talked about it.
We've definitely mentioned her before for sure.
Yeah.
I know we've mentioned meshes a few times.
Either way,
And Private Life of the Cat.
yeah. You guys saying that your favorite Maya Deren was crazy.
That might be what you're remembering, Luke, because we definitely have had that. We've
I
had that
love cats.
discussion.
She loves cats too. That is one thing.
So
about
that's
her.
why it's this movie.
We're skipping that one. Probably. Well, because the 3 I had picked were Meshes After Afternoon, At Land, and Ritual and Transfigured Time. Those are her.
those
are her 3 major masterpieces.
I am going on hunger strike until he adds back Private Life.
'Cause,
I will starve myself.
We're gonna watch Private Life of the Cat.
The only reason I was iffy is because Stan Brackett.
We are rebelling.
I listened to Stan Brackett's lecture on Deren, and he loves Private Life of the Cat. But the issue is, and this is also like, yeah, of course he has like kind of contrary view on the thing, but like, it's mostly Alexander Hammond's movie. Her husband, he filmed most of it, and it's actually an interesting story, is because he was kind of getting jealous of Maya Deren's success of Meshes After Afternoon because he basically filmed that one. Like he was the cameraman of that one, and she was the more idea person, and that's why they're listed as co-directors. But she got all the credit because she was the ideas person, and she ended up getting more. She deserved it. But anyway, he was getting kind of jealous. So like, she was like, "Okay, I'll help you with your next movie, and you'll be the lead, and I'm just gonna like sit back and more help you out." And that's what Private Life of the Cat was. And so Brackett kind of talks about the footage of being like, you can kind of tell in the footage where he films it versus what she's kind of filming. But it is mostly his movie. It's still a great movie.
I will be talking about it next week.
She narrates it off, and she writes all the.
I will bring it up next week.
Yes, we will.
All right.
I'm gonna go through it next week.
I mean, if you guys both watch it, I've already watched it again, so I don't mind talking about it. But
I'll watch this. Private Life of
the
Cat.
3 ones were gonna be. These are her masterpieces.
I do
Meshes
remember
After
Ritual
These
Afternoon.
are
Transfigured
3
Time
of
a
her
lot.
masterpieces. That does
Okay,
not
that's a good way to
include
say it. That's a good way to
Private
say
Life
it.
of the Cat, which is the masterpiece.
At least, okay, I would say these 3 are her masterpieces for the cinematic reasons of
Cat's not
time.
cinematic of time.
Honestly, it kind of is, but it's just more of a sweet movie.
We got it. We got him.
We got it.
But yeah, that's next week, Missions. Maya
Private
Deren.
Life of a Cat next week.
But yeah, until then, I hope to see you floating through the clouds.
Bye.